Sometimes I take Uber when I don't want to drive. Sometimes I take Uber when I've had 4 or 5. But then that big pandemic screwed up my persona. I just wanted beer, not that kind of Corona. They said I'd have to mask up to slow the spread, stay home and eat takeout, my single life did. All these rules and regs get so damn complicated, but you don't need a mask when you've been vaccinated. So kiss my mask, kiss my mask, kiss my mask. I'm no threat, so you don't have to ask. Kiss my mask, kiss my mask. I did this for a year, so it lasts. Kiss my mask. I can go to Walmart without breaking out in sweat. I can go to Publix without getting my beard wet. But Uber's telling me that I can't ride without a cotton muzzle. Now ain't that a surprise? I took that stupid shot so I could breathe some fresh air. The CDC said I'm safe, so why the hell do you care? I'll roll down the window if it makes you feel better, 'cause it don't smell too great in this Subaru Impreza. So kiss my mask, kiss my mask, kiss my mask. I'm no threat, so you don't have to ask. Kiss my mask, kiss my mask. I did this for a year, so it lasts. Kiss my mask. I said I did this for a year, so it lasts. Kiss my mask.
Welcome to the Beau Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Uber was a company that really changed how we got around after the taxi era. It was founded in 2009 by Garrett Camp and Travis Kalanick. It officially launched in San Francisco in 2011, and the idea was to have an affordable private driver service. In 2013, USA Today named Uber its Tech Company of the Year. In May of 2020, during the pandemic, Uber announced plans to lay off 3,700 of its employees, with another 3,000 later that month. It lost about $5.8 billion as of November of 2020. I give all this history because whenever I dive into a subject, I feel it's important to provide proper, fair context. We all know what Uber is, and many of us have used it often, or even Uber Eats to get some food. And those are great conveniences. But Uber has had its share of criticism and controversy, with some of its worst PR dealing with the classification of its drivers as independent contractors rather than employees. Then there is the issue of safety itself. A number of crimes have been committed by Uber drivers. Uber has been criticized for very lax background checks, and the 2016 Kalamazoo shootings that left 6 people dead by an Uber driver led to a number of red flags on safety. In 2017, Colorado fined Uber almost $9 million after discovering that 57 of its drivers had violations in their background checks. Some of the violence that has happened even led to the creation of Sammy's Law after the death of Samantha Josephson. And from a sheer price perspective, we have all experienced that nefarious surge in pricing with high demand, which has been viewed possibly as a violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act. They have misled many of their drivers on their earnings. And perhaps one of its largest PR controversies Uber began using its gray ball software technology to avoid giving rides to certain individuals, such as known law enforcement officers in areas where Uber service was illegal. This led eventually to a Department of Justice investigation. I won't even delve too much into Uber's internal sexual harassment investigations, but it's not too pretty. But what I want to talk about today, which I've alluded to in the opening song, is about Uber's mask policy and how that relates to life getting back to normal. You may remember that in May, the CDC did an about-face, pun totally intended, on its mask guidance, recommending that fully vaccinated people would not need masks or to social distance anymore, thanks to the most current health knowledge and data. For those who took the vaccine and had hoped that they could return to life as normal as we know it, this was a breath of fresh air, both literally and figuratively. It was that catharsis that so many had been hoping for after over a year of masking and huffing and puffing and sweating and general discomfort. Once the CDC had changed its guidance, companies such as Publix, Walmart, Target, CVS, Walgreens, Costco, and many others began dropping their mask requirements as well for those fully vaccinated people. And now that we are learning that those who have recovered from COVID also have a pretty decent lasting immunity, things are beginning to look somewhat rosy. So this is all a preface to a recent ride that I took with Uber, in which I received email feedback that I was not wearing a mask. You'll see from this email that they state, "We take the safety and hygiene of our users seriously, and you'll need to verify that you are wearing a mask before you can request your next trip by taking a photo of yourself wearing a face mask. We may also remove your access to Uber if you continue to not comply with our policies. Feel free to review our coronavirus resource page, which is kept up to date with the latest safety information during the COVID-19 situation." Now, this was seriously a shock to me. A driver had reported me for not having a mask on when I'm a fully vaccinated person, although he did not ask about that. So I get this feedback email which tells me they take safety seriously, which is a bit of a laugh considering all the company history I provided earlier. Then they tell me I'm going to have to take a selfie of me wearing a mask before I can ride again, or else my ability to ride with them may be terminated. This COVID resource page that they speak of, I felt like I had to check out, knowing that the CDC had changed its guidance back in May. On the Uber site, they also link to the World Health Organization site, which, as we all know now, is a farce, considering the stranglehold China has on the WHO and their absolutely laughable investigation of the Wuhan lab. So right at the outset, their page on Uber is linking to an organization that is totally compromised. Then they talk about their policy, no mask, no ride. This includes a video made all the way back in July 2020, which looks to me to be a self-indulgent virtue signal about how great they are for wearing masks while riding on a Vespa scooter outdoors. They say that drivers and riders are required to wear masks even when vaccinated. Now, when I saw all of this, I felt like I wanted clarification of their policy because it was definitely not in line with what the CDC had said recently and was not congruous with what other major businesses were doing. So I had to press. I opened up a support ticket to track this and see how far I could go. I did this because as much as I never like to be offended because I think that's snowflake stuff, I really felt like I was being discriminated against for doing all the things the so-called health experts said, which was to get the vaccine, against my qualms about the short-term and long-term side effects that we're still learning about. This was my choice and my health independence, but Uber is against it. And just to be clear, I took this ride well after the CDC had issued its new guidance in May. So I opened up this support ticket, which is actually hard to do in Uber's app, because once you read its info about the mask mandate they have as policy, you can't reply to it. You have to find some other way to request help. So I chose the I was discriminated against by my driver option, when in reality, it's the company policy discrimination, not the driver. Here was their reply. Hi, Beau. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We introduced new changes to better protect users during this time. All users are required to wear a face cover or mask. Per the CDC COVID-19 mask guidelines, masks should be used at all times in public settings, even if you've already received a vaccine. We'll be reassessing this policy as more information becomes available. They once again reiterate, users may lose access to the app if they're repeatedly reported for ignoring our face covering guidelines. So there's the thread again. I then respond to them in the following way. I read your response to my support request regarding discrimination by an Uber driver, but more broadly by Uber itself as a company, for requiring me to wear a mask as a fully vaccinated user. As I pointed out in my prior message, fully vaccinated people do not need to wear masks or social distance. In your reply, you hyperlink to the CDC website in the following way. Per the CDC COVID-19 mask guidelines, masks should be used at all times in public settings, even if you've already received a vaccine. We'll be reassessing this policy as more information becomes available. This was false information. I pointed to the exact CDC page they linked to, which says the following here. Do I need to wear a mask and avoid close contact with others if I have been fully vaccinated? No. Fully vaccinated people can resume activities without wearing a mask or physically distancing, except where required by federal, state, local, tribal, or territorial laws, rules, and regulations, including local business and workplace guidance. If you are a fully vaccinated person, you can resume activities that you did before the pandemic. So, with this information, I knew that they were lying about the CDC guidance and also had been referring to outdated information. Even after I pressed them, knowing that there was no federal, state, or local mask mandate in my area in Florida, I knew they couldn't use that as policy. So they were standing as an outlier, as many other businesses were dropping their mandates, including pharmacies like CVS and Walgreens. Now think about it. If CVS and Walgreens are places where unvaccinated people come in to get their vaccines, they would seem to be vulnerable. But both have dropped their mandates. Why would Uber want to go against the CDC guidance? And remember, Uber is doing this under the guise of safety, but also stating that a driver or rider can cancel if they feel unsafe. My driver never mentioned the mask requirement, nor did he cancel the ride, so he must not have felt unsafe. It would be the same thing if you perhaps, let's say, brought a soft drink or a bottle of water along with you or a snack in the car. Perhaps the driver might request you not to eat or drink in his car. I think that's fair. It's their car, they can make those rules and can politely request. But I really wanted to know where they were getting their science. So I pressed further to find out. I should mention also that in the middle of these emails, I did receive a generic email sent to all Uber users about Uber celebrating Gay Pride Month, where they state they have guidelines to prevent discrimination and a push to allow their transgender drivers to go by their preferred name and a fund that they have set up to help transgender drivers update their name on all legal and federal documents. Wow. I sure wish I could get some help, to do my taxes, eh? Uber, is that included? They're going out of their way to support gay pride and prevent discrimination, but what about discrimination against vaccinated people? And a requirement to invade my privacy by taking a photo of myself with a mask on, like I need to prove my worth. Uber apparently didn't require very much from their drivers when they did background checks that Colorado, as I said earlier, ended up suing for about $9 million over. So I had to press this issue. In their follow-up email, they say this: we understand there are users who exhibit inappropriate behavior and make false allegations. However, we appreciate your professionalism in handling difficult situations like this. When these trips happen, we are not in the vehicle. As a result, outreach to both parties is standard practice. Our feedback to you isn't designed to be accusatory in nature. Our goal here is to simply make sure you are aware of the type of feedback you received and hear your side of the story as well. No further action will be taken with regard to your account status or ability to use the app. So they circumvented my question, and then they try to sugarcoat it by saying I'm not in jeopardy of losing access to Uber. I pressed back again because they didn't answer my question about the scientific source behind their policy and the subsequent discrimination towards vaccinated people. They reply with this exact same generic scripted response I received before. It's obviously a template. They did not address the policy or the burden and singling out they are doing. And you know, when they open up with a line like, "We understand that there are users who exhibit inappropriate behavior and make false allegations," they are really starting out on the wrong foot. If they claim that the feedback isn't designed to be accusatory, why did they insinuate that I could be doing something inappropriate? I'm already accused because they state that I'd have to take this selfie with a mask on as a prerequisite to even riding again. What is the next step going to be? Will it be like Coca-Cola, and will I have to maybe make an effort to be less white or less straight? I don't know. So I press again for clarification of policy. I get back the exact same pre-formatted email with one additional line about this being forwarded to a specialized team. Oh, goody. The next response, exact same form email. I reply again. The next email was the only different one. This email says the following here. On May 18th, 2020, Uber introduced new safety standards to protect riders and drivers in the US and Canada. Face covers are now required for everyone riding or driving with Uber. This policy is designed to help protect the health and safety of you and your driver. Your face cover can be a bandana, a scarf, or any other type of cloth cover for this purpose, as long as it covers both your nose and mouth. For more information on how to wear a face cover or mask, watch this video. Before every trip, drivers will be asked to confirm that they've taken specific steps to prioritize safety, including wearing a face cover or mask. Riders and drivers who continue to violate face covering policies risk losing access to Uber. Okay, so this was the most specific that they could get. They linked to a video from May of 2020 that tells you how to wear a mask. That was a long, long time ago, before the vaccine was even available, before over half the American population was either vaccinated or it had COVID. They also recommend cloth masks, which we know are highly ineffective, given the small size of viral particles, which can easily pass through them. Not to mention the germs that get caught in them from having a damp surface that collects them from breathing in them. It's basically a germ sponge. Then, in this email, this response, another final threat from Uber to lose access for not heeding this outdated policy. They just keep beating it into you. Furthermore, which advice are they following? Tony Fauci's emails that say, don't wear a mask? The CDC's old guidance? The World Health Organization's thoughts that the virus came from bats and not from a lab? We know they aren't using the CDC's current guidelines because I've already showed you what those recommendations are. I point out in my emails to Uber that I respect their right as a private business to create whatever policies are in their best interest. I don't have a problem with that. But when these policies are based on outdated health guidance, and then they discriminate against those who pose no health risk, and then require them to do something they don't even need to do, there is no other word to describe that than discrimination. And yet they fail to address it at all. I asked them for clarification on this policy about 6 different times. And my most recent email was directly to Sachin Kansal, Global Head of Safety Products. Looks like his last self-indulgent virtue tweet was in October of 2020. Geez, man, get with the times. A lot has changed. Here's what Sachin said in an interview on Bloomberg TV in May of 2020 regarding the invasive technology that allows them to profile both drivers and riders to confirm whether they have masks on.
If riders are wearing masks, or is it up to drivers to cancel trips and give you that feedback that riders wouldn't wear the masks?
On the driver side, we have had a feature for a few years called a real-time ID check, which already asks them to take a selfie, which we can compare with their profile photo. So we already had the technical infrastructure on the driver side for us to implement this quickly. We do not have that technical infrastructure on the rider side. And since we wanted to get this out quickly, we went with that. However, on the rider side, we actually asked them to confirm a checklist before every single trip. Before the trip, they have to certify that they are wearing a mask, that they have washed their hands, that they will sit in the back seat and not in the front seat. And they're asked those questions every single time. And then in addition to that, if they get in the car and the drivers see that they're not wearing a mask, the drivers can let us know. And given the global scale of Uber's business, the feedback that we get from either side actually ends up being a very important indicator. And if we notice that there are riders who have been constant violators of these guidelines, we can take further actions, including removing them from the platform potentially.
Now remember, that is from May of 2020, not 21. Sachin's latest tweet is from October 2020, so it's almost like they've been stuck in 2020, but have heralded this invasive face matching technology to force you to comply, whereas other businesses are following CDC guidelines and permitting people their own personal freedom. Medical liberty is definitely going to be something we're going to be looking at closely coming out of this pandemic. What's so telling about Sachin's interview is the virtue signaling he's doing, as though Uber is some pioneer in validating your safety, when we already know about their really lax background checks and the discriminatory gray ball technology that allowed them to evade law enforcement, which was obviously illegal, and the other internal controversies that they've had over the years. They don't really have room to be virtue signaling here. But like I mentioned about the gay pride email that I received, they sure want you to know they are willing to fund transgender legal name changes. But just like Sachin Kansal's last tweet, dated October 2020, the company is stuck in the past. I reached out to Mr. Kansal by email and have yet to receive a response. But if Mr. Kansal would like to respond to me and explain the policy, as I have asked for about 6 different times, he is welcome to come on the show and address it. But right now, it seems that those of us who, were pressured so hard to take the vaccine, to return to normal life, as we pose no threat to society, we're being punished. We're being forced to use a face matching app that seems rather invasive and quite untrustworthy, considering the gray ball software controversy before. For what it's worth, Sachin Kansal follows Hillary Clinton, Jack Dorsey, Bill Gates, Barack Obama, a parody account called Donald Trump, and he liked a tweet from November 7th, 2020 that shows Kamala Harris standing juxtaposed to all the previous male vice presidents. Yeah, that's the same Kamala Harris that has not visited the US-Mexico border yet. The same VP that said this about taking the vaccine.
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it, absolutely. But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
So this gives us some insight into Uber leadership and where their heads are. Maybe he's getting Uber's policy guidance from Kamala back in the VP debate of 2020. Sounds like it. There is no question in my mind that Uber has put this policy in place to virtue signal. Why it wants to demonize and discriminate against those who are vaccinated, it's beyond me. But it's kind of like those blue states that were so reluctant to open up. The more blue the state, the less free it is. Once again, I open up this invitation to Mr. Kansal to respond to me, and he's welcome on the show anytime. Until then, I will consider the company to have outdated, unsound policy that is in direct contrast to the latest CDC information. I'm Beau, and that's the show.